Take a trip to the moon and it would rain all the way there. He pulled his Harley under the protection of the condo complex's carport next to Sandy's little blue Geo and cut the motor. Mercy, he was soaked. His black leather jacket was soggy and his boots squished when he stood up. His bag of clothes was supposedly waterproof, but he doubted anything could have withstood the deluge he'd been through. Except for the case protecting his video camera. He could sink that camera with the Titanic, and the case would stay airtight. Not that it would matter. This camera would operate just as well underwater as above it. He unlocked the camera case from the back of his bike, and glancing up at the lights blazing in the windows of Sandy's condo, he lugged it and his duffel bag toward the courtyard. Damn, now that he was here, he was scared to death. What was he going to tell her? That 1 minute he'd been sitting in his living room in L.A., trying to unwind after a rigorous 3-month stint on location as a cameraman on a picture about the rainforests, and the next he'd been screaming down the highway toward Phoenix with only his camera and a couple of changes of underwear and t-shirts stuffed into his duffel bag. Was he going to tell Sandy that in L.A., his entire life, his entire existence suddenly seemed so plastic and surreal that he'd nearly panicked, unable to remember a single moment in the past year when he had felt happy, sincerely, honestly, felt happy. But then he'd remembered the trip he and Sandy had made to the Phoenix Zoo the last time he'd been in town. He'd been happy then. In fact, he had been happy the entire 2 weeks of his visit. They'd spent 2 solid days movie marathoning, going to a multiplex theater for the first screening of the day and staying until the place shut down, seeing 6 different movies in a row, living on a diet of popcorn and soda and ice cream nuggets. They'd also gone hiking out in the desert, looking for sidewinders and jackrabbits. 2 kids from the streets of New Jersey versus the wilds of Arizona. They'd laughed so hard it had hurt. Sandy was his best friend, his confidant, his rock in a world of quicksand. Beautiful golden Sandy, with the shy smile and the purest blue eyes he'd ever seen. Sandy, who was smart, gorgeous, and talented, but totally unable to see it in herself. She had no self-esteem, no idea how special she was. When she looked into the mirror, she still saw the awkward little girl in ill-fitting clothes, the girl who lived on the wrong side of the tracks in a wealthy suburb of New York City, where high school popularity was directly related to the kind of car Daddy could afford to buy his daughter. But Sandy had had no daddy, and her mother couldn't even afford to buy herself a car, let alone one for Sandy. That little girl had adopted a to-hell-with-them attitude and a great sense of humor, but the insecurities had never fully disappeared. Setting his camera on the floor, he rang the doorbell. The door swung open, and the warmth and light of Sandy's smile spilled out into the hallway. But the welcome in her eyes quickly turned to disbelief and barely concealed horror. "Oh, McCade!" She backed away. "You're covered with mud." He was splattered, from the top of his wet hair to the tips of his black cowboy boots. "Don't move," she ordered him, taking both the camera and his duffel bag out of his hands and carrying them quickly across the rug to the linoleum floor of her kitchen, where the mud would be easier to clean up. "Off," she demanded, coming back out and pointing to his muddy attire. "Everything off out here. You are going directly to the shower. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. McCade leaned against the door, crossing his arms. "Sandy, old buddy, old pal, you're not really going to make me undress out here in the hall, are you?" "Damn straight I am." She crossed her arms, too, smiling sweetly up at him. "I just had my carpets cleaned, old buddy, old pal." Her hair was loose around her shoulders, and her face was free of makeup. She looked fresh, scrubbed clean, and much younger than her 27 years. From an artist's point of view, her face was damn close to perfection. It was a near-perfect oval, with a wide, high forehead and well-proportioned cheekbones that took on an almost exotic cast when she smiled. Her nose was neither too big nor too small, and her chin and jaw were strong, almost too strong, if one really had to find a fault with her face. Her lips were full, her mouth generous, curving into a